Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. I am your old pal Iman coming to you on a Tuesday morning with one Adam, Ship My Money Share. Adam, what's going on? How was your weekend?
It was good. Relaxed a little bit. Didn't put too much effort into football. Had a nice Sunday night of basketball. So it was a good weekend. How was yours?
It was solid. It was fun doing some basketball and watching the old alma mater win on Saturday for college football, and then doing a little NFL, losing, playing a little bit of NBA, and then naturally winning, because when you play a little, that's when you tend to win. So, oh well, back to it this week. Basketball, though, has been just absolutely wild. Saturday and Sunday, just some extreme scores. And looking at the whole season, we have Cleveland, Atlanta, the Bulls, Sacramento, Mavericks, the Lakers, Timberwolves, the Jazz, the Pelicans, and the Rockets. What do all those teams have in common? They are all scoring 120 points or more per game.
Yeah, lots of offense early in the season for sure.
How many teams do you think are scoring less than 100 points per game?
6.
1.
Wow.
Can you name it?
Chicago?
The Denver Nuggets. Chicago actually is averaging 122 points a game.
Yeah, they did have a couple monster games.
All right, last question and this is a 3-game sample size, but who is leading the league in scoring?
Player or team?
Team.
The Pels?
That would be the Sacramento Kings at 130.7 per game.
Wow.
As we mentioned, I have no idea what to do. Yeah, the Pelicans are like 9th at 120 points per game. This is unreal. We saw that Utah Jazz-Memphis game that went off on today, because we're, of course, recording this Monday night. It's your baseline podcast first look. But that game, I think, had like a 217 or a 219 over-under. When I started doing DFS back in 2012, we would have been doing cartwheels to get a game once a week that had a 219 over-under.
Yeah, I remember when that was a high total, and now it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever.
It's bizarre. It's out there. In any event, a couple other high-level things that I found interesting for as far as pace goes. Every team, with the exception of Phoenix and San Antonio, are averaging more than 100 possessions per game. Lakers are leading at 113. Sacramento and Atlanta are checking in at 111. The offensive efficiency numbers are wild. That's where you get New Orleans. They are leading the league with a 127 offensive efficiency per the Hollinger team statistics. The next closest team, there's 2 of them, Portland and Minnesota, 10 points below, or 10 efficiency points below. And then defensive efficiency, there are only 4 teams that are below 100. That's just crazy. That is just crazy. Dallas is the highest with 124 defensive efficiency. That's not good. They need Dirk Nowitzki out there to anchor their defense.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, all right. Well, that's your global look. We've got 3 games, so we can have a little fun with this. We're going to talk about Philly, Detroit. We've got the Clippers in New Orleans. We've got the Kings in Denver. So just hitting the news and notes real quick. We have Drummond missed practice with the flu. He will be a game time decision on Tuesday. They think he'll be recovered by then. It's more, how is he feeling? Does he have his energy level back? Remember how crappy when we feel when we have the flu? Now imagine we're 1.5 feet taller than we are now, at another 80 pounds. So we'll have to see what happens with him. Michael Scala went through a full practice with Philadelphia. He will still be a game-time decision, but with his ankle issue, they expect him to make his debut. And then the odd one that you really, really, really want to keep an eye on is Ben Simmons. He had back tightness. He left the game after 8 minutes on Saturday and has still been experiencing some spasms as of Monday night. So we'll have to check and see what's going on there. As we get closer to lock on Tuesday night. The Clippers in New Orleans, we have Avery Bradley turned his ankle in their last game, but he did come back in and play. Let's see. Julius Randle has been dealing with plantar fasciitis, or the plantar fascia. I never say that correctly, but he's got a sore foot, but it seems to have calmed down because he had a solid game. We've got Boban. How come he only played 5 minutes in the last game, Adam? Do you want to tell the listeners why?
Because there's no way in hell he's guarding PJ Tucker.
A lot of people got burned on that one. You got to pay attention to what the opponents are going to do. So Boban is going to be incredibly matchup dependent. This one seems like there's a lot of really tall guys for New Orleans. He may have a better chance. They're all way more mobile than he is.
Yeah, him against Julius Randle is probably going to be a nightmare also.
Yeah, so just keep an eye on that one because it sounds like they want him to play.
Yep.
But if it's not a good spot, they're not going to be able to put him out there. So we'll have to get good at reading those types of opponents, but that's good because we've got Adam and Laffy and Josh that will take care of that. And we have an instantaneous revenge game. Wesley Johnson traded from the Clippers to New Orleans, should make his debut in this game. So we'll see what happens there. He might have a better chance at making the playoffs rather than being a fringe chance of making the playoffs. And then in the Kings and Denver, we have Will Barton is going to miss the next 6 weeks. He sounds like he's going to have surgery on his adductor muscle, which is kind of it's that long muscle that wraps around your groin and your hip area. So just be aware of that. Oh, I had this up because I was trying to understand what it was. One of the adductor muscles is part of the hip. Its main function, wait for it, is to adduct the thigh. Thank you, because it's called an adductor. And it is inverted by the obturator nerve, and it forms the medial wall of the femoral triangle. I would never survive in an anatomy class.
No, definitely not.
Sorry, Latin is not my specialty. The last fun one, so that's putting a Torrey Craig. He started, didn't play, played solidly for a rookie. Do you know where Torrey Craig went to college?
I have no idea.
Okay. My next question is, have you ever heard of this college? He went to USC Upstate.
Yeah, actually I have. They were in when I went to Coastal Carolina, they played them in baseball a few times.
There we go. So they're in the Big South.
Same conference as Coastal Carolina.
Had to go look this up, and I pulled up because they said they have football. Because I was like, oh gosh, this team, I never heard of it. So it's University of South Carolina Upstate, and it says they have 17 Division I things, but they didn't have football. But I wanted to see who was in their conference. So, and I've heard of a couple of these teams. Kennesaw State. Okay, I've heard of that one. Presbyterian, I have heard of that one. And then Monmouth College, right up where my aunt and uncle live, up there in New Jersey. So there we are. Anyway, I'd never heard of USC Upstate.
Yeah, actually, a guy I played baseball with in high school played there too.
Oh, look at that. All right. Well, this is me growing up out on the West Coast. You want to talk about the podunk colleges out on the West Coast? I got those covered. The ones out here on the East Coast I have not caught up with yet. All right, and then rounding it out, we had the Iman Shumpert massive game. He usually does this 2 different times a year, and I swear to God these games come in pairs. This is just me remembering, but I remember a couple of these with New York and then a couple with Cleveland, and then he disappears for the next 2 months. So putting that out there because it's going to affect Yogi Ferrell, and they're probably going to go with the hot hand potentially in that one. So with Shumpert having a monster game in their last outing, I suspect Ferrell could be coming off the bench one more time here. But that is what we have for that. So we're going to go game by game here, Adam. First one we got is Philly and Detroit. We don't have a line on that yet because they're still waiting on Ben Simmons and then news, of course, of Andre Drummond. But let's assume they're both going to play here. What do you like from this matchup?
So assuming Drummond's in, I think the matchup with him and Embiid's an interesting one. They have history going back to last year. I don't remember how it went. I think Embiid came out on the winning end of that and then threw some shade at Drummond on Instagram. So that'll be a fun one to watch. I like both centers, obviously. Both really good players. Embiid, the better defender, so I would give him the edge. And they are similarly priced with or actually on DraftKings now, there is $1,000 difference between them. I would still give Embiid the edge, though. But I think both of them are reasonable plays. Reggie Jackson's been playing a bit more. He's up into the mid-30s now. He's at a reasonable price tag, and on this 3 slate, I think that he's going to be someone that's pretty easy to get to and makes a lot of sense. So I like him. And then, Ben Simmons has just been a triple-double pretty much every time he plays. Obviously, keep an eye on the questionable tag. If he sits, you'll see a boost to, Markelle Fultz, probably TJ McConnell.
What are your thoughts on the JJ Redick, Markelle Fultz experiment? I think it's good for real basketball, but do you think we'll be able to know from game to game which one of them we should play?
The way I've been approaching it has been and I talk about it a lot that I hate trying to predict blowouts and not rostering players for that reason. But in this spot, I do kind of try and guess at what's going to happen and also just pay attention to who's in my lineup. Because if the game is competitive, I expect Redick to be the better play because he'll get the closing minutes most likely. If the game is not competitive, I expect Fultz to get as many minutes as possible to try and get his confidence up and find his shot. So in lineups where I wouldn't be hurt by a blowout in that game, I prefer Fultz. In lineups where I would like that game to stay competitive, I prefer Redick.
Yeah, another guy that could get some blowout minutes, of course, would be Landry Shamet. They still have TJ McConnell mucking around in there. Those last two that I just mentioned aren't really going to come into play unless Simmons is out. Luke Kennard was a DNP coach's decision in the last game that kind of helped out one Reggie Bullock, who is still pretty points dependent, but could be some salary relief. We're talking about him because we've got 6 teams in the player pool, and it's kind of a thin one, so we got to look at that. One thing I think that Muscala may end up doing is taking a couple minutes here from Covington, a couple minutes there from Saric, etc. Because I think they're going to play him. He should make the big rotation and probably be in their top 8 is my guess. But I don't know that he's really going to be worthwhile, except for one thing, Adam. He is 3,200 on DraftKings, and we have a 6-team player pool.
Yeah, obviously we'll want to pay attention to try and get an idea how many minutes he plays. If he were to get up to like 18 minutes, and I mean, there are stars on the slate, so the price tag would be pretty appealing.
The other guy is Ish Smith. He has been seeing minutes with Reggie Jackson. Remember, that was like the bane of Stan Van Gundy's existence, was never playing those guys together, or very rarely in any event. A little bit of hyperbole there. But I kind of think Ish is a teensy bit intriguing at 4,100, again, because of the slate. Anything else you would like to mention from this game?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, let's move along here to our Clippers and New Orleans. Now, this one, a lot of goodness going around. We, of course, have the line here. New Orleans favored by 6.5. Have you looked at the line? If not, what do you think the over-under is?
233.
237, Adam.
Wow.
That's like, if I told you there'd be an overtime and if this is a Denver or a Phoenix game, then I would guess 237. Holy heck. That's just crazy. So we've got Davis will be up there. He's 11,400 on DraftKings, and then nobody else is checking in over 8,000. We have only got 3 players over 7,000. That would be Nikolai Mirotic, who's coming off a career-high 36-point game in their last one. I think he played 26 or 27 minutes. Rather impressive. He was just reining them in from downtown. We've got Tobias Harris, who is apparently – I don't even really want to say Blake Griffin light, because he seems to be at least a little bit more consistent with this iteration, because, of course, he doesn't have to deal with Chris Paul or DeAndre Drummond. But I love Tobias Harris here, up-pace game, 7,500. I really like him. And then Jrue Holiday, he's the guy I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with, because we've got Patrick Beverley there on the other side. But is Beverley going to guard Elfrid Payton? That's where it gets a little bit intriguing. What are you looking at? Let's talk about the backcourt first. How do you think those guards are going to match up with who Beverley is going to be?
I would think Beverley is on Payton and then Bradley's on Holiday. I'm guessing they just play it straight up.
Okay, which makes sense, because I guess not to bury the lead, Avery Bradley, even though he's not doing a ton offensively, he's still damn good defensively. He was hurt a ton last year, so I guess I don't always look at it from that angle. But that seems like a pretty good defensive backcourt that they've got there with the Clippers.
Yeah, it can definitely cause some problems.
until Lou Williams is in the game.
Yeah.
Then we don't worry about that. We don't speak about that at parties. We don't want people to know about that. What do you got here from the front court, though? Where do you think Anthony Davis is going to be on your pantheon of players, counting all teams? Put Embiid up there and anybody else.
Davis is my favorite player on basically any slate that he's on. He's averaged 1.6 DraftKings points per minute without Cousins since the start of last season. And now you're talking about a New Orleans team that's pushing the pace more than they did before. He still plays monster minutes. He's getting more time at the 5. I really like Anthony Davis all the time. Giannis is really the only guy that I think even compares to him in DFS right now. And Giannis, I do not believe is on the slate.
All right. We, of course, have Adam writing the deep dive on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That's behind the paywall at Osmo. If you haven't given Osmo a look, you can use the promo code EARLYBIRD, no space, EARLYBIRD, and you can get 1 week of free. All premium content includes ownership projections, point projections for all the sports, assuming if there's any PGA swing season still going on this season. But we do have NBA, we do have NHL, we do have NFL. So there's all sorts of goodness that you can check out back there behind the paywall. You get the deep dive series every day. It's a good time. Plus Slack. You get Slack for a week. Once you get Slack for a week, you're going to want to be there the rest of the time. Try it out. Promo code EARLYBIRD, 1 week free. Talk to me about Julius Randle. This is an intriguing matchup for him. So the Clippers have pretty good backcourt defense. I'm not saying I don't see anybody in the front court that scares me, because it's not Harrell. It's certainly not Harris. This seems like a really good matchup for Randle and Davis.
I think it's a great matchup for Randle coming off the bench, because it's going to be matched up. He's going to be matched up with either Montrezl Harrell or Boban. If it's Boban, Randle's just too quick for him. He's going to go around him. Harrell's not a great defender. Like, that's the reason Harrell doesn't play more. So I think it's a spot where you probably get 30 minutes out of Randle, but I expect him to be very, very productive minutes. I really do like him a lot. So yeah, I think Harrell will play more minutes than Boban. I'm not as confident as I was against the Rockets, but that's my assumption, is that you see most of those backup center minutes go to Harrell, which makes him a good play as well at still 4,300.
What about the Polish hammer? This is not from are we going to play him at standpoint. This is more of a how many minutes is he going to siphon away from those other guys? Looks like he's playing about 18 a game, probably does 2 rotations.
Yeah, he's pretty consistently been playing, the first half, and then the third quarter. He hasn't been playing the fourth. I don't know that that'll be the case always, but I'm not expecting many minutes out of him. 18 to probably 20 max.
All right, and then anything else from the mid tier with Gallinari, with Lou Williams, 4,400 Patrick Beverley, 4,200 Eton Moore. We're looking for value. We don't have a ton of choices out here today.
Yeah, I think Eton Moore is a good value play. He's pretty much locked in the 32, 33 minutes at only $4,200 on a very high-scoring, fast-paced offense. So I think that's really appealing. Gallinari, yeah, he's still – his price is going up a little bit. I've been playing him a lot the last couple of slates because he was only like 58, 5,900. Now he's at 6,300, but he's still someone that you expect to play around 34 minutes. He can get some shots up. He is scoring dependent, but, 3-game slate. And Pat Beverley – he hasn't been closing. So I think playing maybe one of Pat Beverley or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander makes some sense because they're both really cheap. Beverley hasn't been closing, but I'm not convinced that that's always going to be the case. We've seen that second unit close out games recently, but I would still lean toward Beverley. I mean, at 4,400, I think that there's more possible reward than risk in playing him and hoping that, he plays 4 quarters.
All right. Did you get to experience any of the Nikola Jokic fun on Saturday?
I don't want to talk about it. I had him project.
I unbeknownst to me, I don't know what happened.
I had him projected as the top scorer on the slate, like even higher than LeBron and whoever the other star on the slate was. And I kept looking at it, and I was like, that seems kind of crazy. And so I cut him back a little bit. And when I cut him back, he just ended up going from a core play to like in 10% of my lineups and then dropped to 82 points.
Yeah, that was something else. All right. So again, we've only got one more game to talk about here, so let's have a little fun with questions. Which do you think was more shocking on Sunday? Sacramento beating Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City, Denver beating Golden State, or Iman Shumpert dropping 26 real points?
Iman Shumpert, then Sacramento, and then Denver. I mean, they're actually good.
Denver's actually pretty decent. They're rather deep, and Golden State is – I don't think they'll implode upon themselves, but I think if everybody it feels like the rest of the league kind of, I don't want to say has caught up with them, but they were the last 3 years have been a pretty good defensive team, but just amazing offensively. Everybody else is just like, it's like, you guys are all too young. The old ABA with the red, white, and blue ball. Yeah, you guys have no idea what I'm talking about. But the whole thing was, what's the quickest way to get the ball back? Let the other team shoot.
Yeah, and to be fair, Oklahoma City's defense has been absolutely atrocious without Andre Roberson.
Yes. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, by the way, Russell Westbrook, welcome back. He was 5% owned on Sunday, and he had a nice game. I went to bed before the end of that game, but I want to say he ended up with about 55 or 60 DraftKings points.
Yeah, I think he had over 60.
All right. Final game of our 3-game slate. We've got Sacramento. We've got Denver. This one is in the Pepsi Center up there at altitude. Denver's favored by 11. 227 over under feels about right for this pair of teams. De'Aaron Fox played, I want to say 40 minutes in the last game.
I think it was 42.
Yes, 42, and he played 26 in the one prior to that, 37 before that. Do you remember last year when he was like, there would be games where he'd get 22 and all of a sudden it'd be Frank Mason the third time? What is going on that they're now going with him? They're trusting, well, or at least playing Buddy Hield. I mean, did we have to get Garrett Temple out of there just to make this happen?
Yeah, I mean, Fox has been playing well, but also clearly they're willing to just, give him the reins and let him take over. He also benefited from Buddy Hield picking up 3 fouls in the first quarter of the game on Sunday night. So that gave him a few extra minutes. But even in the second half, he basically played 10 minutes, came off the floor for 2 minutes, a minute and a half, came back in, played another, 6.5 minute stretch, subbed out for a couple minutes and then closed. So, I mean, he still played, I think, around 20 second half minutes in that game.
All right, so let's we're jumping around here, so I'm going to rein us back in. Let's focus on Denver. So Will Barton going to be out for the next 5 or 6 weeks. So this is going to be where we'll find some players getting additional opportunity. Jamal Murray has a sore leg, but it's not on all the different practice or the different sites where I normally look at for injuries. So I don't know if this was something that came off a practice report or something like that, where it's just kind of mentioned in passing and it's not going to be that big of a deal. But
talking about Murray.
Yeah, Jamal Murray.
He was injured during the Golden State game, I believe, and then came back in.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that happened.
All right. Well, if he came back in, maybe that's why not. It's not on every site. But that's just one of those keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. But if we look at the Will Barton vacating some minutes there, we're going to see more Trey Lyles. We saw Torrey Craig get the start. Juancho Hernangómez is going to be in the mix a little bit. I mean, I guess Lyles is the one you can kind of, air quote, trust a little bit more, but he is 30% more expensive than Hernangómez or Torrey Craig. Of those three, which trust is not the word we want to use, which one would not turn your stomach the most? Or which one would turn your stomach the least?
So Trey Lyles is my least favorite out of the group.
Yeah. No upside, right? There's just no upside.
Well, no, he just doesn't benefit. He's playing power forward. He's not getting minutes at the 3.
Okay.
So his role really didn't change. He's playing 19 to 21 minutes. Torrey Craig got the start. He played 27. He played 26 and a half minutes. He's not a high usage or high upside offensive player, but he will rebound. He'll pick up defensive stats. He can score, occasionally. He's at least shown the upside in the G League. So those minutes are nice. And then he basically split, or Juan Hernangómez picked up the rest of the minutes at the 3 in addition to a couple of minutes at the 4. So you got 23 and a half minutes out of Hernangómez. Either of those guys are fine. I prefer Craig just because you expect him to play a couple of more minutes. He also closed out that game against Golden State. But Hernangómez, at 3,700 is a perfectly fine pivot in tournaments.
All right. Without peaking, how many field goals per game do you think that Gary Harris is averaging through 3 games this season?
14.
17.
Wow.
He's got, starting with the opener, 16, 15, and then 20 in the last one. And he's played 34, 35, 30, almost 35 minutes. So it's been kind of consistent. He should get potentially a little bit more offense as one of their scorers. Maybe a couple shots go his way that Will Barton was taking, but just interesting one on that one. Kind of closing it out here. What do we do with Sacramento? We've got, one last bury the lead. Jokic. I think we may have to only get one of Jokic or Davis. Or you're going to go Davis, correct?
If I can get there. I mean, there's not a lot of value on this slate, I don't think. Well, I guess there kind of is with Denver. And yeah, I'll go Davis if I can. But I have no issue dropping to Jokic.
All right.
I like Jokic more than I like Embiid. I like Jokic more than I like Drummond.
Okay, perfect. With Sacramento, how do you want to approach some of their secondary guys like Bagley and Belicia and any of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you kind of can get into trouble a little bit. But I think I'm trying to find their popcorn machine the last time they played. I lost it. So I think that Bjelica is my favorite out of the cheap value front court guys. We saw his minutes suck against the Pelicans, but he picked up 3 fouls, and I think it was the first 6 minutes of that game. He played 30 and a half minutes on Sunday night against Oklahoma City, so I'm still pretty comfortable projecting him, for around 30 minutes. Bagley, I think, plays 22 to 24. I don't feel as comfortable with him, but on the short slate, you still can take a chance there. Harry Giles is really dependent on Cauley Stein getting in foul trouble or something, so he would be the least interesting to me.
All right, last bonus question of the night. Jaren Jackson, Josh Jackson, or Justin Jackson?
Jaren, that order.
Okay. Just checking. It can get a little bit confusing, gamers. There's a lot of J. Jacksons in the league at this point. But that is going to do it here for our show. Any overarching final thoughts before we dip on out of here, Adam?
Nope, nothing for me.
All right, we will be moving along here. Reminder, you can use promo code EARLYBIRD, one word, EARLYBIRD, to get a free week of Awesemo premium content. Check us out. It's going to be fun. There'll also be a variety of shows this week. We've got the strategy shows in the morning. We've got the live up until lock with Fast Eddie Fair and company. And then we've got Adam and Lofty breaking down the larger slates in the deeper dive. It's a good time. Check it out, awesemo.com. With that, gamers, good luck.